In this video, which is a part of the SchiffGold series on gold and IRAs, we're going to be talking about custodians. Why you need a custodian, because unlike traditional investing, if you're just buying gold and silver, you can custody it yourself. You can keep your gold in your house in your own private safe. But when you are incorporating gold into your retirement account, whether it is your IRA or a 401k, you need to have a custodian to hold on to that gold in order to comply with the government accounting rules and IRS rules in order to maintain the eligibility of your IRA and the tax deferral of the income that you've now diverted to that IRA that you have used to buy physical gold and silver. So we will get into the custodial aspects and those requirements in this video. Now, a lot of people use custodians when they own physical gold and silver, even if it's not in a retirement account, simply because they don't want to store the gold themselves. I mean, gold and silver are very valuable, and you want to make sure you don't lose it. And a lot of people want to leave it in a reliable storage facility, so that custodian, right, is basically holding on to your metal. I mean, even if it's in a safety deposit box, right? The custodian, I guess, is the bank that owns the safety deposit box where you are depositing your gold. And at SchiffGold, we help people find custodians all around the world. We arrange storage for our clients who want their metals stored in places like Switzerland or Singapore or Hong Kong or Australia. And I recommend that people not only diversify by owning gold, but diversify how they own their gold, where they store their gold. You want to spread the gold around. Now, I do believe that one place that you should have some of your gold is here personally. I mean, you should have some gold in your own physical possession, in your own private safe, in your house somewhere, or even buried in your yard somewhere. Just make sure you don't forget where you put it, or have a map, or make sure that somebody knows where that map is in case something happens to you and your family members or wherever you've left your gold to, that they know where to find it. You don't want to lose it, but you also need to have gold in your retirement accounts, and that is where a custodian is extremely important, because in order to have your own physical gold or silver in your self-directed IRA, somebody needs to be the custodian, because when the IRS set up these rules for IRA contributions, they want to make sure that the money that you are contributing to an IRA is held with a custodian. And of course, the custodians are not going to do it for free. They are going to charge you a cost in order to maintain your IRA. And of course, they have filing requirements, reporting requirements. So it costs money to act as a custodian. And of course, if you're taking custody of something like physical gold or silver, there are more costs involved in that than simply allowing you to hold shares of a publicly traded stock or a bond. So you're going to encounter higher fees when you are dealing with owning physical gold and silver in a self-directed IRA. Your custodian is going to charge you more than another custodian would charge you for just traditional investments. But of course, once you establish one of these IRAs, even if your initial goal is to buy gold and silver, you can do a lot more than that. Remember, these self-directed IRAs can own shares of private companies. They can own shares of your own LLC that you set up to invest in gold and silver, or to invest in private companies or real estate. You can buy single-family real estate so long as it's not your primary residence or your own vacation property. But if you have legitimate tenants, then you can buy rental properties in your self-directed IRA. So once you set this up and you're paying the higher fees associated with this type of account, it does provide you with a much greater degree of flexibility in the investment options that you have at your disposal. So the fees in this case are going to be worth it, especially if you end up not only getting more diversification, but potentially you get the better returns that are available in non-publicly traded assets. I mean, buying into a company while it's still private, who knows, maybe one day that company will go public at a much higher price. If you want to get involved in those type of transactions, you can't do it in a traditional IRA, but you can do it in your self-directed IRA. Now, SchiffGold can help you. We work with custodians. We can put you in touch with a quality custodian who will handle your needs at a reasonable price for the assets, especially those that are specializing in clients who want to own physical gold and silver. Obviously, that's what we sell at SchiffGold. I mean, so if you want to include other types of assets in your self-directed accounts, real estate or stocks, these are not the types of investments that you're going to be introduced to through SchiffGold. But once you have your IRA custodian in place, you now have a vehicle for other investment assets to the extent that you want to include them in your retirement accounts, you can. But I think the most important thing to have in that retirement account is going to be physical gold and silver. You need to have an anchor. You need to have a hedge against all sorts of market risks, political and economic, all sorts of uncertainties, inflation, deflation, hyperinflation, currency crisis, whatever it is. I think gold is probably going to be your best safe haven. I think gold hasn't really delivered that much in the way of gains over the last several years, but if you go back to the year 2000, when the price of gold was below $300 an ounce, and look at it now, the prices have moved up considerably since then. We did get as high as $1,900 briefly in 2011. We did have about 3 years of a bear market that followed that enormous run, from under 300 to close to 2,000. I think that bear market correction is over. It actually ended back in December 2015 when the Fed, for the first time in about 8 years, actually raised interest rates, something that the gold market had been fearing for years. When it finally happened, it was a buy the rumor. They had already sold the fact, and I think that marked the low of that bear market. We haven't taken out the 1900 high from 2011, but I think we will, and I think we're going to take it out, and we're going to go significantly higher than that, especially if my economic forecast ends up being proven correct once again, like my forecasts regarding the 2008 financial crisis and the real estate bubble, forecasts that I was making confidently for years and years before I was ultimately vindicated by the events that I had been anticipating actually happening. I believe that the next crisis is going to be even worse. I think the need to protect yourself from the fallout is even greater. And unlike the last crisis, I don't believe the Federal Reserve will be able to bail anybody out. If you totally were blindsided by the bursting of the bubble in 2008, in fact, if you were blindsided by the bursting of the dot-com bubble in 2000, hey, as long as you held on, the Fed bailed you out. I mean, as long as, if you didn't own the companies that went bankrupt, right, the ones that stayed in business, the Federal Reserve was able to bail you out. The markets went to new highs both times, and so investors were bailed out. But I do not believe the Fed is going to be able to pull off that feat again. I do not believe it is going to be third time's the charm. It is going to be 3 strikes and you are out. And so if you are not in real hedges, if you're not in physical gold and silver, if you do not have your money invested outside the U.S. markets, outside the U.S. dollar, when we have a currency crisis, when we have a sovereign debt crisis, there is no way the Federal Reserve is going to bail anybody out, because it's the U.S. government itself that is the epicenter of the crisis. When people are fleeing the dollar, they can't print dollars to get out of the crisis, because that only throws fuel onto the fire. So the only way to protect yourself is to bail yourself out. And you can bail yourself out in advance by setting up an account that has gold and silver. And if most of your money is in your retirement accounts, whether it is a 401k, whether it is your IRA, you're going to need the custodian that can physically hold your gold and silver, so you can make physical gold and silver ownership a part of your retirement plan, a part of your 401k. And don't forget to watch all of the videos in this series to really understand the role that gold can play in your IRA and 401k, how to set up one of those accounts. If you don't know how to do it, if you want more information than what is provided in this video, make sure and talk to one of my representatives at SchiffGold. They are highly trained and they understand what you need to know to accomplish this. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure and give it the thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you know about future videos as they come out.